Today I need to replace the intercooler on my S60. It's a 2002 D5, it's the 163 horsepower version. The car's been a little bit down on power recently, and I've noticed that there's some oil on the intercooler at the bottom, which is a really common symptom. It's probably also slightly bowed, and I'll check when I get it out. And when I'm accelerating, there's a bit of smoke out of the exhaust when it didn't used to do this. So I strongly suspect the intercooler is broken. I've got a replacement, so I'll be replacing this today. The first thing to quickly check before you go any further is where your MAP sensor is. That's manifold absolute pressure. So because mine's an early D5, 2002, mine's on the sort of intake inlet area here. Later ones, later D5s, have it on the intake of the intercooler, which is on the very large pipe just down there, where it's on the intercooler position just down there. So basically have a look just past the alternator down there on the charge intake to the intercooler, and if you see the MAP sensor there, you need to order an intercooler with a hole at that point on the intercooler, and many of the eBay listings or wherever you look will have that shown. They'll either say with MAP sensor hole or without a hole. If you've got an early D5, you'll need one without a hole. Verify that your MAP sensor is located there, then you want to order one without a hole, otherwise you won't be getting much boost. Parts of your car that you'll need to remove to do this job: mainly the bumper, which will include the wiper arms. So under here it's a small nut, I think it's 8 or 10 mil, verify in a minute. Don't forget to disconnect the wiring from your fog lamps below there. The bumper bolts are behind this panel, just pull it away. They're in there, and there's another one on the other side as well. And there are some clips at the top along here. And after that, I believe the bumper should come away. We're also going to need to remove this top slam panel, I expect, to be able to get access to the intercooler, which is below here. And I may have to remove some of the under tray from below here. And you can see where I've got some oil dripping down just here already. That's part of the problem and how I knew this was gone. But I may well need to removing some of this plastic to access it. 8mm. It may take a bit of a wheel to pull these off. Oh, that one didn't. And don't forget to disconnect the spray just here at this rubber hose join. A little difficult one-handed. There you go. And hopefully that won't get lost too much down the back when you put the bumper on. Just make sure to pull that back through. The fog lights, you just need to disconnect up there. You'll want to release this by pushing in the metal tab clip there, pushing that in and wiggling backwards, and it'll come free. Do that on the other side as well, don't forget. Common thing to forget these, so you start pulling the bumper off after doing everything else, and then you realise your bumper is still attached to the car via these wires. Your top clips may look a little different to these. I think I swapped these out for some with a different design at some point in the past, but just unclip these from the top row so that this is now nice and loose. And this bolt behind here is a 13mm. It doesn't come with a socket attached. I just put that on there. One of the main bumper mounting points is in the wheel arch at the front. If you look just in front of the tyre, you will see just in there. It's not coming up very well in the dark, apologies. Try that there. Yeah, okay. So there is a Torx bolt just there. It's a T25, or at least it is on my car. Don't worry about these rivets here, they just hold the liner on. Look for a small gap just there, just so you can position yourself. That's where I was. And it's a T25. Unfasten that. Don't have to go all the way. All it does is allows the bumper to slide forward only by a couple of centimetres there. So just keep unfastening it, and because of the access I normally use a socket on the end of this like that in there. Keep unfastening it until you get a bit of wiggle. Just grab the bumper, move it forward and backwards, and once you get a few centimetres of movement it will unclip itself, and there's a side catch there. I'll show it to you in a moment. As it turned out, the one on this side was actually a T20, so just be careful and look at the correct size for your car. I've obviously replaced something on this at some point. So I've now pulled it off on this side. I'll be doing the same on the other side in a moment. All it does is pull straight forward. The rest of the bumper will gently move away like that. And what you were moving is this catch here, forward and backward with the bolt. And it needs to be pushed backwards, slackened like that when you take the bumper off. And when the bumper is positioned on the car, it slides in along these rails. The catch there on the edge, the lip, catches behind the back of the bumper, there behind that lip. And as you tighten the nut, the screw, the torque screw on this side, it simply pulls this plastic outwards there towards the wheel. As you can see, it moves that way and simply wrenches the bumper back down towards the car and keeps it in place. That's all it's doing. So when you release this, push the nut, the torque screw back in as you undo it, and it just keeps pushing this backwards. That allows you to unhook the bumper and pull it away from the front of the car. And the other side is exactly the same. For better access, I am going to remove this plastic under tray. It's not the main engine under tray, it's just a front cover. So there's a catch here. These just need to push in these prongs and push backwards, but not before you release the 10mm bolt just there on that side, as you can see where that is, and the same on the other side. With that lower plastic panel removed, there is a small other plastic panel just there below the intercooler. And it's just held in with these small clips, plastic clips along the bottom. So I've just pulled that first one out. Next one there. I found they just pull out, or at least the first one did. Anyway, you might need to get a screwdriver on it just to prise it out. But pull that down, because that bottom piece there is clipped to the bottom of the intercooler. And because it's now starting to get very oily down here because the intercooler's broken, I've put on some nice gloves. Back up top now, I just need to remove the slam panel to gain some access below here. And it looks like all of these top bolts are 10mm. Just unfasten them all one by one. Along with all the bolts on the top, there are two bolts holding in this sort of front section of the slam panel, one there and one just there. And also there's a bolt just here which holds on the headlight under there, if you can see it, yeah, just back in there. Of course I've just pulled this forward a little bit, but there's one more bolt there, so there's a total of 4 bolts you need to unfasten at the lower section, 2 there and the same 2 on the other side. Then this slam panel now does lift up and out of the way, although it is going to be pinned in place by the bonnet release cable, and probably it looks like also some wiring for the horn and other things down here, so just be careful as you lift this up and away. I need 2 hands now. So on the back side of the slam panel, this piece of plastic also provides the air intake as well, was mounted just in there. It just pushed in place, you can just pull it away. That helped me because it allowed me to access some of the wiring and things. So this is the bonnet release cable. At the moment it's just sort of hanging from this, but it's a very strong cable, so I'm not too worried. Alongside it, coming from this direction over here, is the headlight washer, the rubber headlight washer hose, which I've just disconnected and sort of left hanging now. Some wiring is connected here as well. So firstly, there's some wiring to one of the bonnet release catches. This just tells the car whether or not the bonnet's open on your dashboard. So I've just released that. Just a case of pushing in that tab in there and releasing it. And then 2 clips, both the same as each other, pushing in this metal tab down here that release each for the horn, 2 horns at the front there. I found that releasing all of these electronic cables and the washer flexible rubber hose back there just makes this a bit easier. They were all held in place, at least some of them, with this zip tie here, so I've just cut that off. It just makes things a little easier, and I don't want it hanging from any of these items. I don't mind if it hangs from that because it's much stronger. I don't really want to release this if I don't have to. New intercooler. Just here at this position would be where you'd find a hole for the cars that do have a map sensor on their intake. This would normally fit just like that. That's the front side of it, so you'd find the map sensor hole just there. In relation to the car, it would be down just in there. So now that I've got access to here, the sort of radiator pack is now sort of loose. It moves around, so there's your air conditioning, that's the engine coolant, and this is the intercooler in the middle. I can already see I need to remove this bolt through here. This pinches up it connects together the air conditioning to the intercooler through there, and the new intercooler does have this hole just here. The other thing, of course, you need to unfasten is this is the intake hose going towards the inlet, and there is a Jubilee clip just down there where I'm wiggling my thumb, and there is of course another one on the other side just there in the centre of the screen. Need to release those. I missed a couple of bolts before. There is another top small 10mm bolt just like that one that's just below down in there. Have a look for it just about there, and then the last one is just out at the bottom through that gap there, and again you access it under there. And I just missed another one. How annoying. I really should look first. There's one more just below there as well, which of course is on the right hand side down there, accessed from here and located just there. I'm just about to pull it out. The radiator packs look like they're about to fall down, apart from the coolant one at the back towards the engine bay there. These two look like they're about to just fall down, so maybe you want to have something below supporting them. Sit rep. This is a little bit of a ball ache trying to pull it out. It is essentially out now though. I'll just be finishing this off in a moment. What I needed to do was release the radiator pack even more than it already was by removing that 13mm or 12mm bolt which holds in the pack. It goes through the radiator just there, up through that hole there, and into the chassis just there. You'll find one each side under the front corner of the car. This allows the whole pack to fall down, including the radiator this time as well. It's quite heavy, got a fan on it, lots of coolant in it, so maybe support it with something below soft enough. This allows you to pull the radiator backwards as best as you can. It's quite free now, and then the biggest struggle of the whole job is that width there of the intercooler needs to come upwards past, and because it lives behind that gap there, down in there, it needs to come up past the radiator, so you need to wiggle the radiator backwards like that and try and pull it up through that gap. Sounds potentially easy, it is a bit of a struggle sometimes though, and at the very last stages of it right now that I've got to, I found it easier to wiggle one end up and out and a bit to the side before I now try to wiggle this final end out, the hose connection of which is still down there below this part of the front wing bodywork of the car. And it's done. There's my intercooler, and just quickly, there's the amount of gap it left behind. That's the amount of room you've got to play with a loose radiator. So it is bowed, as you can see. It's bowed on the top too. I don't think I've seen them quite like that before. It is a bit bowed at the bottom, and it's very oily at the bottom. I suspect it's full of holes all along here. That's quite disgusting. Wow, look at that. It's completely matted on. Disgusting. Probably been gone for quite some time. So I'll now be putting the new one in, and overall, of course, this is just a reversal of the removal procedure, so I'll be sort of whizzing through it, I suppose, a little bit faster. And fast forwarding through a little bit of time, the new intercooler is now in position. It was quite a little bit of wiggling just to get it in again the same way as I took it out. There's no way of me easily showing you that, it's just me here, I can't hold the camera and do it at the same time. It is just a case of wiggling it past the headlight here at an angle and manoeuvring the radiator backwards, so you give yourself enough room to get the two inlet and outlet hoses past this area. You'll see. I've got all four of the little smaller sort of bolts, these ones here that run through there, just under there. I've got them in now, and the two larger bolts that hold the entire radiator pack are now in position up there. So what's left for me to do now is reattach the slam panel and put everything basically back together. Okay, complete fast forward all the way to the very end now. I just kind of got stuck in with finishing off the job, to be honest. There's nothing you need to see about putting it all back together. It's exactly the same as what you've done, just in reverse. Nothing to catch you out or nothing different. Just remember to clip everything back, including the thing that you might forget under here, the fog light leads, the cables under there, don't forget those. Other than that, that's it, job done. You should hopefully feel a little bit more power in the vehicle now if your intercooler was as bad and as leaking as I suspect mine was. And because of that, I'm going to give it a little test now. Let's see if, when I put some water in this, it comes out the bottom, or even the top when I turn it upside down. There you go. All that water leaking is my boost leaking. And I wonder if there's anything at the top as well. Yep, there you go. Leaking there. So water leaks equal boost leaks and no power. So it does at least show you that the boost is leaking out of that intercooler and it was shot. So thanks very much for watching.